Press the button, my friend.
The Out of Bounds Show is live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge in the Bank Plus studio.
Check it out.
Ole Miss, a 15-point favorite over the Auburn Tigers in Oxford, 11 a.m. Saturday. So, 15-point favorite? I don't know if that's ever happened. If I had to guess, it hasn't.
That's a big number.
I don't think it has.
That's a big
That's
number.
got to be a first. Ole Miss, Auburn, 15 points.
Yeah, maybe against a bad Arkansas team, but an SEC West opponent as a 15-point dog is...
Yeah, like when Chad Morris was ripping off the,
20 straight
losing
SEC
16,
losses.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Maybe Mississippi State under Kroom, right? Maybe.
Yeah, God, I just wasn't keeping up with lines as much then.
No one was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. It's a 15-point line against a recruiter who's 10 spot, who's anywhere from 5 to 8 spots ahead of you, give or take. I know Ole Miss's talent profile is a little down from where it had been under Freeze, but you're not supposed to be a favorite by double digits over that type of talented team when they come to your house.
Right.
So I'm not sold that Ole Miss is a 6-0 top 10 team the way their record has
them. This is 16 on Caesars.
Yeah. But I'm more sold that Auburn stinks than I am that Ole Miss is great. So I don't know what to do with that information, right? It's immovable force meets unstoppable force meets immovable object. It's I don't believe in Ole Miss, but I certainly don't believe in Auburn.
Well, all right. So Auburn against Georgia, and this isn't probably quite fair, but they were 13 of 38 through the air.
Woo!
For 165.
Hey, that's not good.
And they ran for 93 yards against Georgia.
Also not good.
Mississippi's own Branson Robinson for Georgia out of Germantown, 12 carries, 98 yards.
That's solid.
True freshman. Number one player in the state, allegedly, last year.
Allegedly.
Branson Robinson, 12 carries, 98 yards as a true freshman. There's a reason why Kirby and his assistants came over here and fought it out with Bama and others for him. I did not realize that. So they ran for 292. Georgia ran for
correct.
292 against Auburn. Kiffin loves to run the football. And he loves to do both. But Judkins, Evans, Dart could have a field day.
Yeah, I think Auburn got absolutely brutalized, and that is a team that is they haven't given up, but boy, they're close, right? I mean, they are getting eviscerated. They're a missed field goal from losing to Missouri at home. A missed field goal from losing to Missouri at home.
They kept it close. First half, 14-0. They played their tail off.
Yeah. Auburn's not a bad roster. They're just a bad team.
I think it's a solid roster and a bad team.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just not good.
Who's in a better spot right now, Oklahoma or Auburn?
Auburn, because they've already they're used to this. They've dealt with this before. I mean, they won a national title and played for one within the last 12 years. So I got to put them ahead of Oklahoma. They already know what it takes to do this in the SEC. Yeah. Oklahoma has no idea.
No.
This Saturday, can I give you an interesting little anomaly as we look ahead to the next weekend before we go to Steve Robertson?
Bama by 14 over Tennessee from Ready Teddy on the Ag Up Equipment text line.
Yeah, I doubt that.
What's Ready Teddy doing this morning?
Drugs, apparently.
Okay.
Chris Felica, the Bear, on college football.
Yeah.
This is the second time in the history of college football that we've had 3 matchups of undefeated teams that were at least 5-0 or better. So you just mentioned Alabama and Tennessee, both undefeated. Penn State and Michigan, 5-0, 6-0, will face off. And the surprises of the Big 12, Oklahoma State and Sonny Dykes TCU, both undefeated, will face off this weekend.
Dykes is an interesting. Our listeners really don't care, but he was under Leach, and he's had to grind it out, and he got clipped at Cal, and he has come back and put it together and won at SMU and won his way into the TCU job. I don't know if there's something else there.
Just beat Kansas at Kansas for game day.
Yeah, he did. Sonny Dykes, former Mike Leach assistant.
Much better coaching tree than the Dabo Sweeney tree.
Wow. Shots fired early. Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Bundle your car and home and save with your Farm Bureau insurance agent. Good morning. Welcome in. You can watch the show on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We'll go to Starkville, Mississippi, and welcome in Steve Robertson, 247 Sports Gene's page, and also the Boneyard podcast. Steve, Mississippi State in a blowout. Talk to me. What about that offensive line Saturday?
Well, they're outstanding. That's the thing too. I think it's the big surprise is that you kind of had to kind of shift on the fly here. You know, with Dollar Bill Johnson going down, and we do expect him back this next week. But I don't know if you change anything. I mean, honestly, that's back-to-back week with no sacks, and Nick Jones playing left tackle, and Stephen Losoya playing left guard, and they're opening some holes over there. And Nick Jones may be the shortest left tackle in the league, but he's got good feet and good length, and so he's able to kind of keep people in front of him and out away from his quarterback. And so I say if it's not broke, don't fix it.
So you say go with Jones at left tackle and have Dollar Bill ready in case they need him?
Yeah, I think so. Plus, I think it gives him another week. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he dresses, he's available, but maybe you don't throw him right back out there. And let's be honest, too, this Kentucky pass rush is not good. I mean, they've got 8 sacks through 6 games, one of the worst sacks per games average in the country, and they're just not really able to get on the quarterback. And so I don't think you have to have this emergent need to rush Dollar Bill back. And so I think you could probably win this game and keep Will Rogers upright without maybe pushing Dollar Bill, maybe before he's quite ready.
Dylan, well, it goes back to the offensive line, but Dylan Johnson and Marks, but Johnson looked good. Is this now Dylan Johnson's job?
I think that they're still very much complimentary backs. I do think DJ is probably 1A. You know, you notice he usually starts that first drive, and you're kind of going back to what we were just talking about. You know, the big, 30-yard touchdown run for the touchdown that put him right there at 100 yards comes off the left side, running behind Losoya and Nick Jones, and so I think Dylan Johnson has hit a different level at this point. And I think because of Leach's confidence in both Marks and Johnson and Will Rogers' ability to get State into the right play when they get a light box, I think everybody's benefiting from that.
Marks had a ton of touches, right? 16 carries, 11 catches. He healthy?
Yeah, I mean, he's not 100%, but I mean, at this point, who really is? But yeah, I mean, he's back and doing well, and I thought he showed good burst on Saturday. I mean, I think it's just a matter of opportunities. I think, Dylan Johnson's a guy that obviously had some holes open up for him to run on the interior. But, yeah, I'm not concerned about Mark's health at all, and I think both of those guys are, integral parts of this team, and I think you're really seeing them grow up. And it's just the benefit of being, a true junior, I guess. The fact that they played so much as freshmen, I think their learning curve has been somewhat escalated.
All right. Do you want me to play devil's advocate or no?
I don't care. State's 5-1. I don't. So it's like you can try, but go ahead.
All right. So a couple of things. I saw some posts earlier today that Arkansas dropped 3 INTs in the first half, and there was a little bit of that against A&M. Obviously, Will's having a hell of a year. Any concern over that?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is that here in the great state of Mississippi, we never ratified the Hugh Kellenberger doctrine on almost interceptions. That's the first thing that
I love it. I love it.
The second thing that I'll say is, yeah, ball placement's got to be a little bit better. And listen, some of that too. I mean, Dave Neal and those guys are doing the best job they can, and so you're kind of reacting. A guy gets a hand in there, it doesn't always mean they're going to pick it. That said,
fair enough.
Yeah, Will's got to be on target a couple times more. I think actually the ones against A&M were more egregious. There was one against Arkansas that should have been a pick six, and the kid just simply dropped it. But there were a couple plays where there's one I remember in the end zone there where the guy's just laying out full extension and just makes a heck of a play, and it was going to be a near impossible interception. Everybody's like, "Oh, almost picked." I mean, come on. I mean, it's like, I don't know, Deion Sanders in his prime makes that pick, but yeah, but just because the guy gets his hands on
That's
there,
a good point.
doesn't mean it's always a pick. But that said, I think Will Rogers, does a good job with self-awareness. I think Will will tell you, yeah, there's a couple of those I'd like to have back, and you keep going to the barbershop, sooner or later you get the haircut, so you got to be a little careful with that. I think Will's only had one, true interception this year, and that was at LSU, and not knowing the routes or the concept on the play, I'm just kind of saying that based on third-party info
Sure.
there. But the other two interceptions were off the hands of receivers. And so I think when you look at the totality of things, Will's done a great job for taking care of the football. But, yeah,
Sure.
you can find some plays here and there where maybe he could have been better.
Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds show. All right, so people believe there's more growth and more of a runway here with this Mississippi State offense. I actually agree. Think about this. Arguably, Steve, their two most talented wide receivers. Ra Thomas, 1 catch, 9 yards. Tulu Griffin, 1 catch, 33 yards. And they won by 23 points. I actually think that says that there's more growth and more runway with the offense.
I agree 100%. And let's go back to last week's conversation. Jaden Wally and Austin Williams not really part of the offense in the win over Texas A&M. Then they both get touchdowns this week. So it's like it just speaks to the depth of this room that you can have a guy that maybe the defense wants to take away from you, and you just adjust. You just kind of adjust your play calling and say, okay, well, you're going to take this guy. Well, we'll just go with this guy. And I think, Ra has the big game last week. He doesn't have a big game this week. So that puts him on schedule to be the SEC Player of the Week at Kentucky, right? It's like, it's a different hero each week, and I don't think that's about inconsistency. I think that just really speaks to the depth of the wide receiver room.
Anything on injuries coming out of the Arkansas game that you know of or that you can talk about?
I think State's actually going to be in probably as good a shape as you could be in at the midway point in the season. Jordan Davis didn't play last week. He's expected to be available this week. John Lewis didn't play last week. He's expected to be available this week. Dollar Bill Johnson didn't play. Should be available this week. I think that, really the only guy you're looking at, for this Kentucky game that may not make the trip due to injuries is Crumedy. And I think he's still probably, a week or two away. But, when you look at how well that defensive front's playing right now, and then all of a sudden you add him to the mix, and obviously he's not going to be 100% for a while, I think it only bodes well for Mississippi State. But, State, from a health standpoint, appears to be in good shape. And I know Deshaun Page was out. There's a possibility that he may be back this week, if not the next. And so, I think State can probably feel pretty good about where they sit. Just got to continue to stay healthy and continue to work hard.
What about J.P. Purvis filling in and maybe playing better than who he's filling in for?
Yeah, I kind of joked with Jet Johnson in postgame. I said, tell me why J.P. Purvis should win the Heisman Trophy. It's incredible to think about. This is a guy that nearly lost football 2 years ago. That's how serious that situation was. And then he's a safety. Then he grows into a linebacker. And then Matt Brock and those guys have worked with him. And, I think he is quickly becoming a fan favorite because we knew that depth at linebacker was a concern. And now all of a sudden he's forced to play. And he shot out of a cannon, had a huge game against A&M, had a good game against Arkansas. And I think now, you begin to realize maybe we need to find a way to get this guy on the field a little bit more. And hopefully that keeps Spooky Watson fresher later in the season.
All right. Let's wrap it up with Emmanuel Forbes. That's a busy secondary to get your name kind of on the banner with the guys that have come through there that have gone on to the NFL. Like Smoot, Big Play Slay, Banks winning the Thorpe, among others. This guy is writing his way into the history book as one of the best DBs to ever play at Mississippi State.
There's no question. And what's different about him and the other three guys is that they were kind of non-commodities, like in the preseason stuff. Everybody kind of knew they were in the mocks. They were, all SEC type guys. Emmanuel Forbes is so incredibly disrespected by the SEC media. It is an absolute joke that kid wasn't first team all SEC. And it's like, well, he plays at Mississippi State. I mean, that's your criteria to vote. Then don't vote. It's just like some guy voting Vanderbilt to win the SEC, and that's a tree that we can chop down later. But the reality of it is, Emmanuel Forbes is making everybody that didn't vote him first team look incredibly stupid. That athletic play that he made on the pick, and listen, that's a ball that shouldn't have been thrown, but that's not Forbes' decision. But he elevates up there, he picks the ball off. That guy's a difference maker, and I think the more times people see him on film, I think it's actually going to help the Camryon Richardson, because I think people are going to go his way, and I think he's more than up for the challenge. And if you look at the amount of tackles that guy is getting here in recent weeks, because he's getting downhill on people, I think this is arguably the best tandem a corner State's had since Slay and Banks.
All right, we'll leave it there. Steve Robertson, 247 Sports Gene's page. He joined us on the Dos Equis guest line. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
See ya.
All right, so we may bring Steve back for a Kentucky preview. He did talk about, I think Blake may have mentioned it in the second segment of the first hour, which may feel like 15 hours ago.
I was going to say, it was that last week?
Kentucky pass rush is not good.
Terrible.
They have had some good ones as of late that could obviously play in Mississippi State's favor, as they want to win there for the first time since Dak and them went up there in 2014 and won.
How is that possible that they haven't won in Kentucky since then? That's crazy.
Well, in 2016 I was there, and that was early in the year when they just didn't have any idea who they were. Nick Fitzgerald had taken over on offense. Peter Sermon, defensive coordinator. They kicked a
52-yard field goal.
Yard field goal at the end of the game. And then in 2018, Joe Moorhead
I was there.
decided to – was the kid's name Josh Allen?
Yes, he plays for the Jaguars. Yeah,
okay, he
dominated.
decided to make Josh Allen $20 million.
He did.
And not block him all night.
Yep.
To where Nick Fitzgerald got smoked all night and never adjusted play calling off of him.
Nope.
Which was truly remarkable from Joe Moorhead.
Yes.
And that's
all
and then
that
2020 they went up there with that roster of a true freshman quarterback and all that. And turned it over,
crazy.
I think, 5 times or something.
Crazy that they hadn't. But, I mean, look, Kentucky's
Hold on, did I just hit all those right?
Yeah.
16, 18, 20.
Kentucky's been better than they've ever been over the last decade anyway.
Sure.
So I get that too. But, I think you saw Arkansas, who was either second or third in the country at QB pressures. They had 2 of the top 5 sack getters on the year, and they couldn't get to Will Rogers. Now, part of that is scheme. Barry Odom decided we won't bring pressure, and they diced it up. Kentucky has struggled to get to the QB, whether they bring pressure or not. It should bode well for Mississippi State and that offense that looks like it's hitting on all cylinders as it hits the halfway point of the season.
Yeah. Can we switch gears?
Yeah.
It's National Kick Butt Day. Do you feel like you've kicked butt today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mondays are tough, but I feel like we've done them.
All right, so here's what they talk about. The day aims to motivate marketers and advertisers and those in the business world to work smarter and harder toward their goals.
Yeah, you damn right.
I thought it was smarter, not harder.
It said both.
But I don't mean what they're telling you. I thought like the whole colloquial term was work smarter, not harder. Isn't that the phrase? Yeah.
It is.
Why would I want to work hard?
While striving to outdo the competitor.
I mean, we definitely do that.
And also be sure to take stock of your achievements, which you do that, and how far you've come.
Take stock of your achievements.
Well, I'm just telling you what the deal is on National Kick Butt
I know
Day.
how far we've come. I wonder how far A&M's going to go.
We ain't going nowhere.
Oh, that's right.
You
They're
know,
not going anywhere.
A&M
They're losing 3 more games. They're going
gets
6-6.
a week off.
They're going 6-6.
I think that's about right.
They're going to lose to Ole Miss at home.
Yes.
And then of the 3 at South Carolina, Florida, and at Auburn, they're losing one of those 2.
Yeah.
Which will give them 5 losses heading into their last game against LSU at home. And then I don't know what will happen there. That'll be 2 really bad teams that no one will care about at that point.
Wow.
LSU has to play at Florida this weekend and Ole Miss at home the next weekend.
Yeah, it's not good.
Ole Miss is catching teams at the perfect time. You catch Auburn after an absolute skull-dragging by Georgia. That team is done. Auburn is terrible. They've lost 3 of their last 4. Their only win was Missouri in their last 4 games, and they barely won that in overtime. So you're catching Auburn at a perfect time. Then you catch LSU, and LSU will have had to have played at Auburn, Tennessee at home, at Florida, and then Ole Miss. If you're Ole Miss, you can't ask for a better schedule to start.
No doubt about that. Hey, I want to go back to the tickets at the Bama-Tennessee game.
Yeah.
We had someone on the Ag Up Equipment text line tell us that it's $1,300 per ticket here in Chattanooga. Is the cheapest I have heard around here.
What? That's not expensive. Tennessee fans, what do we talk about? Texas fans have been this way too. They're desperate to be good. Tennessee fans have wanted to be good since they were bad in like 99 or whatever, 2000, right after their championship. Right? Like they have wanted to be back on the national stage since Phil Fulmer left in 07 or 08. This is it. This is their moment. I mean, of course the tickets are only going to go up.
Yeah, they're the best team in the league, but that doesn't mean that they'll make it to Atlanta.
No.
Because of their schedule.
If you don't pull Alabama, different ball game. But you pull Bama and Georgia every year if you're Tennessee.
Well, until 2 years.
Well,
right.
Yeah, whenever this changes.
Right.
But up until from the split until now, they've pulled Bama and Georgia every year. That's a tough get.
Yeah. Kind of like Mississippi State's pulled Bama and LSU every year.
Yeah.
For 60 years.
Yeah. No, you're right. Look, Tennessee, to me, this weekend's incredible. You have Tennessee,
Ole Miss had
Alabama.
a bye week last weekend.
Yeah. And they still almost
They
lost.
played Vanderbilt. They didn't almost lose. Good hell.
Down 3.5.
You're just trying to.
Might as well be a
that's
loss.
fine. You're trying to rev it up a little bit.
You've heard. Look, I've said Alabama or Ole Miss has an inside shot at the SEC West title. They do. They do.
I need to see them play somebody that has a heartbeat.
I don't disagree, but
and play well.
You're 6-0 against the 6 teams you've played. How many teams have State and Ole Miss trotted out who would have lost to a team that Ole Miss has played through 6 weeks? It's happened.
Oh, well.
We see it all the time.
Yeah, in the history of the program.
So I got to give Kiffin credit that he's doing it.
Vanderbilt is a bye week.
I understand.
They get more out of scrimmaging
you're
each other.
6-0, and that's the only 6 you had to play. We've seen State and Ole Miss waste opportunities like this before.
That's one of the worst Vanderbilt teams I've ever watched in my life, and that's saying something.
Yeah, but you're 6-0, and that's all that matters. Inside track to Atlanta, baby.
I don't think Vanderbilt could win a game in the Big 12. The Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Lunch brought to you by Bulldog Burger, Lake Harbor and Ridgeland. Bulldog Burger in Starkville and Bulldog Burger in Tupelo. Show is also brought to you by Juniker. Juniker Jewelry Store, Highland Colony in Madison. Guys, they'll make you look like a rock star when you're looking for that engagement wedding ring. Juniker Jewelry Store in Madison. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit Apple Podcast. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds if you missed anything. We'll see you tomorrow.